I'm grateful you joined tonight. Your body is already trying to release stress right now, quietly dismantling tension hormones, recalibrating your nervous system, preparing you for rest you truly deserve. Tonight, you'll discover how stress leaves your body when given permission. And by the end, you'll understand why sleep itself is your brain's most powerful stress relief system. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Wherever you are right now, perhaps feeling the weight of the day still pressing on your shoulders, or noticing your mind replaying moments you wish had gone differently, allow yourself to rest in this safe space. We'll journey through 100 psychology facts about releasing stress, from the chemistry of worry dissolving in your bloodstream, to ancient nervous system pathways that know how to let go, to the moment your mind finally permits itself to stop protecting and start healing. This thoughtful journey through stress and sleep builds bridges between exhausted minds seeking rest. A gentle subscribe, like, or sharing your thoughts creates a pathway for more stress-weary souls to discover and brings us closer to protect this sanctuary, one sleepy soul at a time. Your healing journey inspires ours. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into the peaceful fog of approaching sleep. Safe and undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where worries rest safely in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Stress is not your enemy. It's your body's ancient protection system trying to keep you safe. When your brain detects potential danger, whether a looming deadline or an unresolved conflict, a tiny almond-shaped structure called the amygdala sends out an alarm. This triggers a cascade of hormones: cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, that prepare your muscles to move, your heart to pump faster, your mind to focus sharply. This system evolved over millions of years to help your ancestors escape predators and survive harsh environments. The problem isn't stress itself, but that modern life keeps this alarm ringing long after the immediate threat has passed. Your body never receives the signal that it's safe now, that you can rest. Understanding this is the first step toward releasing what no longer serves you. Chronic stress physically reshapes brain structure over time. Research published in Nature Neuroscience shows that prolonged exposure to stress hormones can shrink the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and emotional regulation, while simultaneously enlarging the amygdala, making you more reactive to perceived threats. Brain scans reveal that people experiencing chronic stress show reduced connectivity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that helps you think rationally and make calm decisions. But here's the hopeful truth. This process can reverse itself. Studies from Stanford's neuroscience department demonstrate that when stress decreases and sleep improves, the brain begins rebuilding these structures within weeks. Your brain possesses remarkable capacity to heal and reorganize itself when given the right conditions. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, that healing can quietly begin. Your body knows the difference between acute stress and chronic stress, even if your mind doesn't always recognize it. Acute stress, the kind that comes from a sudden challenge or brief threat, actually strengthens your immune system temporarily preparing you to heal from potential injury. Studies in psychoneuroendocrinology found that short bursts of stress can enhance immune cell production and improve cognitive performance. But chronic stress, the kind that persists day after day without resolution, does the opposite. It suppresses immune function, increases inflammation throughout your body, and makes you more vulnerable to illness. The key difference is recovery time. Acute stress naturally resolves when the challenge passes. Chronic stress requires intentional intervention. Moments like this one, where you consciously choose to step away, to breathe, to let your nervous system recalibrate. Sleep deprivation and stress create a vicious cycle that feeds on itself. When you're stressed, your body produces excess cortisol, particularly in the evening hours when cortisol levels should naturally decline. This hormone interferes with melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep. Then, when you don't sleep enough, your brain's emotional regulation centers become impaired. Brain imaging at UC Berkeley showed that even one night of poor sleep increases amygdala reactivity by up to 60%, making you more emotionally reactive and less able to manage stress the following day. This creates a loop where stress prevents sleep, and lack of sleep amplifies stress. Breaking this cycle requires gentleness with yourself, recognizing that healing doesn't happen all at once, but gradually, night by night, breath by breath. Your breath is the fastest pathway to calm your nervous system, and it's been with you all along. When you're stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, centered in your chest. This signals your brain that you're in danger, which perpetuates the stress response. But you can reverse this signal by consciously slowing and deepening your breath. Research in neuroscience journals found that slow, diaphragmatic breathing, about 5 to 6 breaths per minute, activates the vagus nerve, the main nerve of your parasympathetic nervous system. This triggers what's called the relaxation response, lowering heart rate, blood pressure, and stress hormone levels within minutes. Your breath is a bridge between your conscious mind and your automatic nervous system. Right now, simply noticing your breath, allowing it to slow and deepen, you're already beginning the process of release. Stress doesn't just live in your mind. It settles into your muscles as physical tension. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that chronic stress causes muscles to remain in a state of partial contraction, a phenomenon called muscle guarding. This is why your shoulders might feel perpetually tight, why your jaw aches, why tension headaches emerge after difficult days. Your body is literally bracing itself against perceived threats. Progressive muscle relaxation, a technique developed in the 1920s and validated by decades of research, works by intentionally tensing and then releasing muscle groups. This teaches your nervous system the difference between tension and relaxation. As you lie here now, you might notice where your body is holding tightness. Your shoulders, your forehead, your hands. Simply noticing is enough. Permission to release comes naturally when awareness arrives first. The hormone cortisol, often called the stress hormone, isn't inherently bad. In healthy amounts, cortisol helps you wake up in the morning, provides energy throughout the day, and assists in memory formation. The natural rhythm of cortisol follows a pattern called the diurnal cycle, high in the morning, gradually declining toward evening, reaching its lowest point during deep sleep. But chronic stress disrupts this rhythm. Research in psychosomatic medicine found that people with persistent stress often have elevated cortisol levels at night, sometimes even higher than their morning levels. This inverted pattern interferes with sleep and prevents the body's natural restoration processes. The good news is that this rhythm can be restored through consistent sleep schedules, stress management, and practices like the one you're engaging in right now, allowing your mind to settle, your worries to drift, your body to remember its ancient patterns of rest. Your gut and your brain communicate constantly through what scientists call the gut-brain axis, and stress affects this connection profoundly. When you're stressed, blood flow decreases to your digestive system as your body redirects resources to muscles and the brain. This can cause digestive discomfort, changes in appetite, and disruptions to the trillions of bacteria living in your intestines. Recent research published in Cell reveals that these gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters, including about 90% of your body's serotonin, a chemical important for mood regulation and sleep. Chronic stress can alter the composition of your gut microbiome, reducing beneficial bacteria and increasing inflammatory species. This creates a feedback loop where stress damages gut health, and poor gut health increases vulnerability to stress and mood disorders. Healing happens slowly, through gentle nutrition, adequate sleep, and reducing chronic stress. Your body knows how to restore balance when given time and permission. Worry is your mind's attempt to solve problems, but it often creates more stress than solutions. Research suggests that the vast majority of things people worry about never actually occur. And when difficult events do happen, most people discover they handle them better than anticipated. Your brain evolved to anticipate threats, to plan for worst-case scenarios, to protect you through vigilance. But in modern life, this vigilance often misfires, treating uncertainties and possibilities as immediate dangers. Studies have found that worry activates the same neural circuits as actual problem solving, which tricks your brain into feeling productive even when you're simply cycling through anxious thoughts. The antidote isn't to stop thinking. It's to notice when thoughts have become repetitive loops rather than productive planning. Right now, those worries can wait. They'll still be there tomorrow if you need them, but tonight, they can rest along with you. Sleep is not passive rest. It's when your brain actively processes and releases stress from the day. During REM sleep, the stage where most dreaming occurs, your brain essentially runs a simulation of emotional experiences without the stress chemicals. Dr. Matthew Walker's research at UC Berkeley shows that during REM sleep, noradrenaline, a stress-related chemical, is completely shut off in the brain. This allows you to revisit emotional memories and difficult experiences in a neurochemically safe environment. Your brain can reprocess these experiences, extract meaning, and file them away without the accompanying emotional charge. This is why people often say sleep on it when facing difficult decisions. Sleep doesn't just rest your body. It heals your emotional wounds, softens your anxieties, and helps you see situations with fresh perspective. So yes, stress can dissolve through sleep, through dreams, through the quiet work your mind does when you finally let go. The act of naming your emotions reduces their power over you. In neuroscience, this is called affect labeling. and brain imaging studies show it works through a fascinating mechanism. When you simply feel an emotion without naming it, your amygdala, the brain's alarm center, shows high activation. But when you mentally label what you're feeling, I'm anxious about tomorrow, or I feel overwhelmed right now, activity shifts from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain. Studies in emotion research found that this shift happens within seconds and reduces emotional intensity by approximately 30%. You don't need to analyze why you feel a certain way or judge whether you should feel it. Simply acknowledging this is stress, or this is worry, creates a small but meaningful distance between you and the emotion. Right now, you might notice what you're feeling. Perhaps there's residual tension from the day. Perhaps there's anticipation about tomorrow. Simply noticing, simply naming, creates space for release. Your nervous system has two modes: sympathetic activation, which mobilizes you for action and creates the stress response, and parasympathetic activation, which promotes rest, digestion, and healing. These aren't separate systems, but complementary aspects of your autonomic nervous system, constantly adjusting based on what your brain perceives you need. The vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, is the main pathway of parasympathetic activation. Research shows that you can directly stimulate the vagus nerve through specific activities: slow breathing, humming, gentle yoga, and even washing your face with cold water. These actions send signals to your brain that you're safe, that there's no immediate threat, that it's okay to shift from protection mode to healing mode. Right now, as you listen to these words, as your breath naturally slows, your vagus nerve is already beginning this work. Your body knows how to heal. It's been waiting for permission. Rumination, repetitively thinking about the same problems or regrets, is one of the strongest predictors of persistent stress and depression. A comprehensive meta-analysis in clinical psychology found that rumination creates a self-sustaining pattern in the brain. The default mode network, active when your mind wanders, becomes locked into negative thought loops. What makes rumination different from productive reflection is that it circles without resolution, asking the same questions without seeking answers, reviewing the same regrets without finding meaning. The antidote isn't to force yourself to think positively. Research shows that's rarely effective. Instead, it's to notice when you've entered a rumination loop and gently redirect your attention to your breath, to physical sensations in your body, to sounds in your environment, to these words guiding you toward rest. Each time you notice and redirect, you're training your brain to break free from patterns that no longer serve you. Physical exercise is one of the most powerful stress relief tools available, but it works through mechanisms that might surprise you. When you exercise, your body initially produces stress hormones. Cortisol and adrenaline spike as your heart rate increases. But this acute stress triggers beneficial adaptations. Studies in Nature Medicine found that regular exercise increases the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein that helps grow new neurons and protects existing ones from stress-related damage. Exercise also increases endorphins, natural pain relievers that create feelings of well-being. Perhaps most importantly, exercise provides a complete stress cycle: mobilization followed by resolution, tension followed by release. Your body gets to do what it was designed to do when stressed: Move. This completion sends signals to your nervous system that the threat has passed. You've responded. You're safe now. Even gentle movement counts. Even stretching in bed. Even the subtle movements of breathing as you settle deeper into rest. The concept of learned helplessness, discovered by psychologist Martin Seligman in the 1960s and still studied today, reveals something profound about how chronic stress affects us. When animals or people experience repeated stressful situations they can't control or escape, they eventually stop trying to escape, even when opportunities arise. Brain scans show this creates changes in neural pathways, making the brain less responsive to potential solutions. But here's the meaningful discovery from recent research. Learned helplessness isn't permanent. Studies in biological psychiatry found that experiences of control and agency, even small ones, can reverse these neural changes. Every time you make a choice that improves your well-being, every time you create a boundary, every time you choose rest when your body needs it, you're teaching your brain that you do have control right now. You're exercising that agency. You've chosen to be here, to listen, to allow yourself this time. That choice matters more than you might realize. Social connection is a biological need, not just a psychological preference. And isolation amplifies stress in measurable ways. Research shows that loneliness activates the same neural regions as physical pain and triggers inflammatory responses throughout the body. Chronic social isolation increases cortisol levels, disrupts sleep, and accelerates cognitive decline. But meaningful connection, even brief moments of genuine interaction, reduces stress hormones and triggers the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin has anti-stress effect, lowering blood pressure and cortisol while increasing feelings of trust and safety. Interestingly, you don't need large social networks to receive these benefits. Recent research in social psychology found that quality matters far more than quantity. One close, supportive relationship provides more stress buffering effects than dozens of superficial connections. If you're feeling isolated tonight, know that connection can begin in small ways. A brief conversation, a message to someone you trust. Even this moment of shared humanity through these words creates a form of connection. Your mind cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual events in certain contexts, which is why visualization can be such a powerful stress relief tool. When you imagine a peaceful scene, a quiet beach, a forest path, a cozy room, the same neural networks activate as if you were actually there. Neuroimaging studies showed that guided imagery reduces activity in stress-related brain regions, while increasing activity in areas associated with relaxation and positive emotion. Athletes have used this for decades to mentally rehearse performances. Now, clinical psychology applies it to stress reduction. You can imagine tension flowing out of your body like water draining away. You can visualize stress as clouds drifting across the sky, passing through without resistance. Your brain responds to these images as if they're real, triggering actual physiological changes: slower heart rate, deeper breathing, muscle relaxation. Right now, you might imagine yourself in the safest, most peaceful place you can conceive. Your body will begin to respond as if you're truly there. Perfectionism, often praised in achievement-oriented cultures, is actually one of the strongest predictors of chronic stress and burnout. A comprehensive study tracking over 40,000 people found that perfectionism has increased significantly over the past 3 decades, particularly among younger generations. Perfectionists experience higher levels of anxiety, depression, and stress-related health problems compared to people with high standards but greater self-compassion. The difference lies in how you respond to mistakes and limitations. Healthy striving involves setting ambitious goals while accepting that setbacks are part of growth. Perfectionism involves setting impossible standards and treating anything less than perfect as failure. This creates chronic stress because perfection is unattainable. There's always something that could be better, some standard you're not meeting. Learning to release perfectionism doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means extending to yourself the same compassion you'd offer a good friend who's trying their best. Tonight, you don't need to be perfect at relaxing. You don't need to fall asleep at the right time or clear your mind completely. Simply being here, simply trying, is more than enough. The concept of emotional granularity, the ability to precisely identify and label your emotional states, directly impacts how well you can manage stress. Research published in Effective Science found that people who can distinguish between similar emotions like anxiety, worry, and nervousness experience those emotions less intensely and recover from them more quickly than people who simply label everything as feeling bad. This happens because precise labeling engages the prefrontal cortex, the brain's regulatory center, which can then select appropriate coping strategies. When everything feels like undifferentiated badness, you don't know what you need. But when you can identify "I'm feeling overwhelmed by too many tasks," your brain can generate solutions. Prioritizing, delegating, taking breaks. Developing emotional granularity is like expanding your vocabulary for internal experiences. The more precisely you can name what you feel, the more power you have to address it. Even now, you might notice nuances in how you feel, not just tired, but perhaps pleasantly drowsy, or ready to let go, or cautiously hopeful about rest. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good practice. It creates measurable changes in brain chemistry that counteract stress. Recent brain imaging studies using functional MRI found that regularly practicing gratitude increases activity in the medial prefrontal cortex, a region associated with learning and decision-making, while reducing activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. People who kept daily gratitude journals for just 3 weeks showed decreased cortisol levels and reported better sleep quality compared to control groups. The practice works partly by redirecting attention. When you're stressed, your brain naturally focuses on threats, problems, and what's wrong. Gratitude gently shifts focus toward what's working, what's present, what's sustaining you. This isn't about denying difficulties or forcing positivity. It's about balance, about allowing your awareness to notice both challenges and sources of support. Right now, you might notice one thing you're grateful for, however small: the comfort of where you're resting, the fact that you've made it through another day, the permission you're giving yourself to pause. Gratitude can be simple and still transform how your nervous system responds to this moment. Your body keeps score of stress in ways that extend far beyond conscious awareness. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's research, ongoing through recent years, shows that traumatic and chronic stress experiences are stored not just as memories in the brain, but as patterns in the body. Muscle tension, breathing restrictions, postural habit, even organ function. This is why some people develop digestive issues during stressful periods, or why certain physical positions can trigger emotional memories. The good news is that body-based therapies, including gentle movement, progressive relaxation, and even simple body awareness, can help release these stored patterns. When you bring gentle, non-judgmental attention to physical sensations, you're beginning to unwind stress that may have been locked in your body for years. You don't need to understand the origin of every sensation or analyze every feeling. Simply noticing with kindness begins the healing process. Right now, scanning through your body from head to toe, you might notice areas of tightness or ease. Simply acknowledging them, breathing into them, allowing them to be exactly as they are. This is healing in progress. The stress response is meant to be brief, a temporary mobilization of resources to handle a challenge, followed by a return to baseline. Research from the American Psychological Association estimates that most stress responses should resolve within 90 minutes if the threat passes and recovery is possible. But modern life rarely allows this natural completion. You face a stressful meeting, then immediately transition to another task. You receive troubling news, then continue with your day as if nothing happened. Your nervous system never gets the signal that the challenge is over, that you're safe, that you can stand down. This incomplete stress cycle creates chronic activation. The solution isn't always possible in the moment. Sometimes you can't immediately resolve work pressures or family concerns, but you can create moments of completion, physical movement, deep breathing, creative expression, rest. These signal to your nervous system that even if the external situation continues, internally you're creating space for recovery. Tonight, as you move toward sleep, you're giving your body permission to complete what couldn't be completed during the day, to release what couldn't be released, to finally, gently, stand down. Mindfulness, the practice of present moment awareness without judgment, has been studied extensively, and a comprehensive meta-analysis of over 200 studies confirms its significant effects on stress reduction. Mindfulness doesn't mean emptying your mind or achieving some special state of consciousness. It simply means paying attention to what's happening right now. Your breath, physical sensations, sounds, thoughts passing through, without trying to change it or judge it as good or bad. Brain imaging shows that regular mindfulness practice reduces the size and reactivity of the amygdala, while strengthening connections to the prefrontal cortex. This means you become less reactive to stresses and more able to choose your responses. But you don't need months of practice to experience benefits. Even a few minutes of mindful awareness can shift your nervous system toward calm. Right now, you're practicing a form of mindfulness simply by being here, simply listening, simply noticing your experience without needing it to be different. This is enough. This is valuable. This is healing in real time. Laughter truly is medicine for stress. And the science behind it is remarkable. When you laugh genuinely, your body undergoes immediate physiological changes. Studies in stress and health found that laughter decreases cortisol and adrenaline while increasing endorphins and dopamine. Blood flow improves, muscles relax, and immune function temporarily strengthens. Perhaps most fascinatingly, your brain can't always tell the difference between genuine laughter and intentional laughter. Even forcing yourself to smile or laugh can trigger some of these beneficial changes. This isn't about pretending everything is fine or bypassing genuine emotions. It's about recognizing that joy and difficulty can coexist, that moments of lightness can arise even during challenging times. Laughter interrupts the stress response, creating a brief physiological reset. If you're feeling stressed tonight, you don't need to laugh it away, but noticing moments of lightness when they arise, allowing yourself brief respites of ease. These matter. Your nervous system needs both acknowledgement of difficulty and permission for relief. The transition from wakefulness to sleep is itself a profound stress relief mechanism. As you move through the sleep stages, your body actively works to restore balance. Blood pressure drops, heart rate slows, growth hormone releases to repair tissues. The glymphatic system, discovered in 2012 and still being studied, activates to clear metabolic waste and toxins from the brain, including proteins associated with stress and neurodegeneration. Recent research shows that even anticipating sleep, allowing yourself to rest, begins these restorative processes. Your body doesn't wait for complete unconsciousness to begin healing. The moment you permit yourself to rest, to release the day's demands, to sink into gentle darkness, recovery begins. So yes, we've explored how stress works, how it settles in your body and mind, how it persists when not completed. But we've also glimpsed the pathways out, the natural healing mechanisms already present within you, waiting simply for permission to do what they were designed to do. We're only beginning this journey together. Take a deep breath and feel this. Every thought you've carried today, every worry that weighted your shoulders, every moment of tension, all of it is made of the same energy that can transform into rest. Feel yourself letting go of the need to hold everything together. The problems you're solving, the people you're caring for, the responsibilities you're carrying, they don't need your vigilance right now. Notice the gentle sensations throughout your body, your heart beating steadily, your lungs breathing without effort, trillions of cells working in silence. You are already healing, already releasing, already moving toward balance. Now we continue. Sleep itself is the ultimate stress relief system, but it requires the right conditions to work fully. Your bedroom environment significantly impacts your nervous system's ability to shift into rest mode. Research shows that temperature plays a meaningful role. Your core body temperature needs to drop about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. This is why cooler rooms, typically between 60 to 67 degrees, promote better sleep quality. Darkness is equally important. Even small amounts of light can suppress melatonin production. Studies published in Sleep Medicine found that people sleeping in completely dark rooms showed 50% higher melatonin levels compared to those with ambient light exposure. Sound matters too, though the ideal varies by person. Some need complete silence. Others benefit from white noise that masks irregular sounds. What all these factors have in common is that they signal safety to your nervous system. Cool, dark, quiet spaces tell your ancient brain that this is a safe den, a protected place where vigilance can rest. Tonight, whatever your environment, you can work with what you have, noticing what feels most soothing, most conducive to letting go. The practice of self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a struggling friend, has profound effects on stress resilience. Dr. Kristin Neff's research shows that self-compassion differs from self-esteem. Self-esteem depends on evaluating yourself positively, often through comparison with others. Self-compassion means acknowledging suffering, recognizing shared humanity, and responding with kindness regardless of circumstances. Brain imaging studies show that self-compassion activates the caregiving system in the brain, releasing oxytocin and reducing cortisol. People high in self-compassion experience the same life stresses as others, but recover more quickly and report less emotional distress. They're less likely to ruminate, more likely to learn from mistakes, and better at maintaining healthy behaviors during difficult times. This isn't about letting yourself off the hook or avoiding accountability. It's about recognizing that suffering and imperfection are part of being human, and harsh self-criticism only amplifies distress without solving problems. Tonight, if you notice judgment arising toward yourself for still being awake, for struggling with stress, for anything at all, you might try responding with gentleness. This is difficult. I'm doing my best. It's okay to struggle sometimes. These words, offered kindly to yourself, can shift your entire nervous system. Time in nature, even briefly, reduces stress through multiple biological pathways. A comprehensive study analyzing data from over 30 countries found that people who spend at least 2 hours per week in natural settings report significantly better health and well-being. But the benefits occur even in shorter exposures. 20 minutes in nature reduces cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure, and decreases heart rate. The Japanese practice of forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku, has been extensively studied, showing that volatile organic compounds released by trees, called phytoncides, actually boost immune function and reduce stress hormones. Natural sounds, bird songs, flowing water, wind through leaves, activate the parasympathetic nervous system more effectively than urban sounds. Even viewing images of nature or listening to nature recordings provides measurable benefits. Though less pronounced than direct exposure, your nervous system evolved in natural environments, responding to the rhythms of daylight and seasons, the patterns of weather and growth. Modern life often disconnects you from these rhythms, creating a subtle but persistent stress. Reconnecting, even in small ways, reminds your body of its place in the larger living system, reducing the sense of isolation and pressure that amplifies stress. The foods you consume directly affect your stress levels through complex interactions between nutrition and brain chemistry. Reviews in nutritional neuroscience found that diets high in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats increase inflammation and oxidative stress in the brain, making you more vulnerable to anxiety and stress. Conversely, diets rich in omega-3 fatty acids, found in fish, walnuts, and flax seeds, support brain health and mood regulation. Magnesium, abundant in leafy greens, nuts, and whole grains, helps regulate the stress response. B vitamins, particularly B6, folate, and B12, are important for neurotransmitter production. Gut bacteria, which feed on fiber and produce neurotransmitters, are profoundly affected by diet quality. Interestingly, the timing of eating matters too. Eating late at night, especially heavy or sugary foods, disrupts sleep and increases next-day stress reactivity. This doesn't mean you need a perfect diet to manage stress. Perfectionistic eating can become its own source of stress. It means gentle, gradual improvements in how you nourish yourself can support your nervous system's resilience. Your body wants to help you handle stress. Sometimes it just needs the right building blocks. Creativity and creative expression provide unique stress relief benefits that differ from other coping strategies. Studies in art psychotherapy found that engaging in creative activities, drawing, writing, music, crafting, even cooking, activates the brain's reward centers while reducing activity in the amygdala. What makes creativity particularly valuable is that it provides a form of control and agency. When life feels overwhelming and uncontrollable, creating something, however simple, reminds you that you can still bring things into existence, that you have the power to shape at least this small corner of your experience. Creative flow states, where you're fully absorbed in the creative process, share characteristics with meditation, reduced self-consciousness, present moment focus, a sense of timelessness. You don't need artistic talent or skill. The stress-reducing benefits come from the process, not the product. Doodling while listening to music, journaling about your day, arranging objects in a way that pleases you. These small creative acts tell your nervous system, you're not just reacting to life, you're actively participating in shaping your experience. Tonight, even the act of consciously shaping your transition into sleep, creating a peaceful environment, choosing soothing sounds, giving yourself this time, is a creative act, a way of authoring your own restoration. Boundaries, saying no, limiting exposure to stressors, protecting your time and energy, are valuable for stress management. Yet many people struggle with them due to guilt or fear of disappointing others. Research shows that people with poor boundaries experience chronically elevated cortisol and are at higher risk for burnout and compassion fatigue. Boundaries aren't about being selfish or uncaring. They're about recognizing that you have limits, that your well-being matters, that you can't pour from an empty cup. Interestingly, studies show that clearly communicated boundaries actually improve relationships in the long term, even if they create short-term discomfort. When you're clear about your limits, others know where they stand, reducing ambiguity and resentment on both sides. The stress of unclear boundaries, saying yes when you mean no, overextending yourself to avoid conflict, absorbing others' problems as your own, is often greater than the temporary discomfort of setting limits. Learning to protect your energy isn't always easy, especially if you've been conditioned to prioritize others' needs above your own. But each small boundary you set teaches your nervous system that you're worth protecting, that your needs matter, that you have agency over your own life. Tonight is a boundary, time you've set aside for your own restoration, regardless of what else demands your attention. That choice honors your deepest needs. The stress of uncertainty is, for many people, more difficult than facing known challenges. Studies in Nature Human Behavior found that uncertainty itself activates stress responses, often more intensely than predictable negative events. Your brain constantly generates predictions about the future, using these predictions to prepare responses and allocate resources. Uncertainty disrupts this system, leaving your brain in a state of heightened alert, unable to fully relax because it can't predict what preparation might be needed. This is why waiting for test results, or living with unresolved conflicts, or facing unclear futures can feel so exhausting. Your nervous system is constantly preparing for multiple possibilities simultaneously. While you can't always eliminate uncertainty, it's an inherent part of life. You can change your relationship with it. Mindfulness practices help by bringing attention to what is certain in this moment: your breath, your body, the ground beneath you. Acceptance-based approaches acknowledge that control is often an illusion, and that trying to eliminate all uncertainty creates more stress than it relieves. Tonight, you might notice what uncertainties you're carrying, and then, gently, notice what is certain right now. You're here. You're breathing. This moment is happening. Tomorrow's uncertainties can wait. Music has remarkable power to regulate emotional states and reduce stress, working through multiple neural pathways simultaneously. A meta-analysis of music therapy research found that listening to calming music reduces cortisol by an average of comparable to some anti-anxiety medications, but without side effects. Music activates the limbic system, the emotional center of your brain, while also engaging the prefrontal cortex and motor areas. Slow tempos, generally below 80 beats per minute, tend to slow heart rate and breathing. Music without lyrics often works better for relaxation because language processing engages different brain areas that might interfere with the calming effect. Interestingly, personal preference matters. Music you find soothing is more effective than music others recommend, even if it doesn't fit typical relaxation music criteria. What's happening physiologically is that music provides external rhythm that your body can synchronize with, a process called entrainment. Your heartbeat, breathing, and even brain waves gradually align with the tempo and patterns of the music. This is why lullabies work for infants and adults alike. They provide an external template for your nervous system to match, guiding you towards slower, calmer rhythms right now, whatever sounds surround you. You might notice their rhythm, allowing your breath to gradually match their pace. Touch and physical contact release oxytocin and reduce cortisol, which is why supportive touch can be so soothing during stressful times. Research shows that even brief supportive touch, a hug lasting 20 seconds, holding hands, a comforting pat on the shoulder, triggers measurable physiological changes. Blood pressure drops, heart rate slows, and stress hormones decrease. Interestingly, self-touch can also provide benefits. Placing your hand over your heart, gently rubbing your own arms, or self-massage activates some of the same neural pathways as receiving touch from others. This is because your nervous system responds to the sensation itself, not just the social context. For people who live alone or lack regular physical contact, intentional self-touch practices can help meet this biological need. The pressure stimulates pressure receptors in the skin, which send calming signals to the brain. Even the weight of a heavy blanket provides this benefit through deep pressure stimulation, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Tonight, you might notice the sensation of your body against the surface supporting you, the gentle pressure of blankets, your hands resting wherever they naturally fall. These points of contact are quietly signaling safety to your nervous system, helping you release the day's accumulated tension. Forgiveness, both of others and yourself. has profound effects on stress and physical health. Chronic resentment and grudge holding keep the stress response activated, essentially reliving past hurts repeatedly. Longitudinal studies found that people who practice forgiveness show lower cortisol levels, better cardiovascular health, and reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety compared to those who harbor resentment. But forgiveness is widely misunderstood. It doesn't mean condoning harm, forgetting what happened, or reconciling with people who hurt you. Forgiveness is an internal process of releasing the emotional charge associated with past events, choosing to no longer let those events control your present well-being. It's about freedom from the past's grip, not about letting others off the hook. Some of the hardest forgiveness to extend is toward yourself, for mistakes made, opportunities missed, ways you failed to meet your own expectations. Self-forgiveness doesn't mean avoiding accountability. It means acknowledging what happened, learning what you can, and releasing the ongoing self-punishment that doesn't serve growth or healing. Tonight, you might notice if you're holding tension around past events or self-judgments. You don't need to force forgiveness. Simply noticing the weight of these grudges, considering whether they're serving you, can begin the process of release. The concept of stress inoculation, exposing yourself to manageable levels of stress in controlled circumstances, actually builds resilience over time. This isn't about seeking out unnecessary hardship. It's about recognizing that completely avoiding all stress can leave you more vulnerable when unavoidable stressors arise. Exercise is a perfect example of beneficial stress. You temporarily challenge your body, which responds by becoming stronger. Cold exposure, practiced safely and gradually, triggers similar adaptive responses. Stepping slightly outside your comfort zone in social situations or skill development creates mild stress that teaches your nervous system it can handle challenges and recover. Studies in psychological science found that people with a history of moderate adversity showed better stress resilience than those with either very high adversity or no adversity at all. The key is controllability and recovery. The stress needs to be temporary and followed by adequate recovery time. This is very different from chronic, uncontrollable stress. Think of it like exercise for your nervous system. Brief challenges followed by rest allow you to grow stronger. But just like physical exercise, you also need rest days, recovery time, periods where you're not pushing or challenging yourself at all. Tonight is one of those recovery periods, necessary time when your system can restore and integrate. Cognitive reappraisal, interpreting situations in less threatening ways, is one of the most effective emotion regulation strategies. When something stressful happens, your initial interpretation generates your emotional response. But interpretations aren't facts. They're mental constructions that can be examined and shifted. Research shows that people skilled at reappraisal experience lower stress reactivity and better mental health. For example, if someone doesn't respond to your message, you might interpret this as rejection or disinterest. But you could equally interpret it as they're busy, distracted, or dealing with their own challenges. Neither interpretation is necessarily true, but they create very different emotional experiences. Reappraisal isn't about forced positivity or denying reality. It's about recognizing that your initial interpretation might not be the only possible interpretation. And sometimes choosing a less stressful lens serves you better. This becomes easier with practice. When you notice stress arising, pause, and ask, what story am I telling about this situation? Is this story definitely true? Are there other ways to understand what's happening? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes situations truly are as bad as they seem. But often, you'll find your initial interpretation has added extra layers of threat that aren't necessary. Tonight, if you're carrying stress about situations from today, you might gently examine what stories you're telling about them. Acts of kindness and helping others reduce your own stress levels through a fascinating mechanism. When you do something kind for another person, your brain releases dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, the same chemicals associated with pleasure, well-being, and bonding. Studies in emotion research found that even small acts of kindness, like holding a door or offering a genuine compliment, provide measurable mood boosts that last for hours. This seems counterintuitive when you're already stressed and depleted, but kindness shifts your focus outward, interrupting rumination about your own problems. It also provides a sense of agency and effectiveness. You can't control all your stressors, but you can make someone's day a little brighter. Importantly, the benefits come from genuine kindness, not from forced altruism or people-pleasing that ignores your own needs. There's a difference between healthy giving that feels meaningful and compulsive caretaking that depletes you. The key is balance and intentionality. You're not responsible for solving everyone's problems, but small, genuine acts of kindness can lift both the recipient and yourself. Tonight, you've been kind to yourself by creating this space for rest. That kindness counts too. The practice of progressive muscle relaxation, systematically tensing and releasing muscle groups, has been used therapeutically since the 1920s and remains validated by modern neuroscience. When you intentionally tense a muscle group and then release it, you create a stark contrast that helps you recognize and release tension you might not have noticed otherwise. Studies found that 20 minutes of progressive muscle relaxation reduces cortisol levels by approximately 30% and decreases both heart rate and blood pressure. The practice works partly by giving your mind something specific to focus on, interrupting worry patterns. It also teaches discrimination between tension and relaxation. Many people carry chronic muscle tension without realizing it because it's become their baseline. By deliberately creating and releasing tension, you train your nervous system to recognize relaxation as a distinct state. You can practice this anywhere, anytime, right now. You might bring attention to your shoulders, gently raising them toward your ears, holding for a few seconds, then letting them drop and release. Notice the difference. That contrast is information for your nervous system, teaching it what release feels like, reminding it how to let go. Sleep pressure, the biological drive to sleep that builds throughout the day, is regulated by a chemical called adenosine. From the moment you wake up, adenosine gradually accumulates in your brain. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine builds, creating increasing pressure to sleep. When you finally do sleep, adenosine is cleared away, which is why you wake feeling refreshed. Stress interferes with this system. Cortisol can override sleep pressure, keeping you awake even when adenosine levels are high. This is the cruel irony of stress-related insomnia. You're exhausted. Adenosine is signaling for sleep, but stress hormones hold you in wakefulness. Understanding this can reduce the secondary stress of being unable to sleep. Your body wants to sleep, The drive is there. The problem isn't you. It's the stress hormones temporarily overriding natural sleep pressure. The good news is that as stress hormones gradually decline through relaxation practices like you're engaging in now, sleep pressure can finally do its work. You don't have to force sleep. You simply have to allow the stress response to ease enough that your body's natural sleep drive can express itself. Right now, adenosine is building, patiently creating pressure toward rest. The more you can release into this moment, the more space you create for that pressure to guide you towards sleep. You're still here, thoughts still wandering through these ideas about stress and release. Take a slow breath. Notice how your body feels perhaps a little softer now, as if some invisible pressure has lessened just slightly. We're exploring healing together. You and I and everyone listening in the quiet dark, moving through understanding like rain slowly soaking into thirsty ground. There's no rush, no destination, just the gentle unfolding of knowledge that might, eventually, become wisdom. Let's continue. The concept of window of tolerance, developed by Dr. Dan Siegel and refined through ongoing research, helps explain why stress management looks different for different people. Your window of tolerance is the zone where you can process experiences and respond to stress effectively. Above this window is hyperarousal, anxiety, panic, overwhelm. Below is hypoarousal, shutdown, numbness, disconnection. Chronic stress or trauma can narrow this window, making you more reactive to smaller stressors. Recent research shows that the window of tolerance isn't fixed. It expands with practices that build nervous system resilience. Sleep, exercise, social connection, therapy, mindfulness all gradually widen your window, allowing you to handle more stress before becoming dysregulated. Understanding this helps you have compassion for yourself on days when you're more reactive than usual. Maybe your window is narrower today because you didn't sleep well, or because you're carrying accumulated stress from the week. That's not a character flaw. That's biology. Tonight, you're engaging in one of the most powerful window-widening practices available. Rest that allows your nervous system to reset and expand its capacity. Chronotype. Whether you're naturally a morning person, evening person, or somewhere in between, is partly genetic and affects how stress impacts you at different times of day. About 40% of the population are intermediate chronotypes, but roughly 30% are evening types and 30% are morning types. Research shows that forcing yourself to work against your natural chronotype creates chronic stress. Evening types forced to wake early show elevated cortisol, decreased cognitive performance, and higher rates of mood disorders. Yet societal structures often favor morning types, creating systematic stress for the substantial portion of the population whose natural rhythm peaks later. While you may not be able to completely align your schedule with your chronotype, understanding it allows you to work with your biology rather than against it. Schedule challenging tasks during your natural peak times, when possible. Show yourself compassion during your low-energy phases. Recognize that your sleep needs and optimal sleep times might differ from cultural norms. And that's okay. Tonight, whatever your chronotype, your body knows when it needs rest. Honoring that knowledge is profound self-respect. The prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate emotions, becomes impaired with sleep deprivation while the amygdala becomes hyperactive. Brain imaging shows this combination means you react more strongly to stressors and have less ability to calm yourself down, like removing the brakes while pressing the accelerator. But the reverse is also true. Good sleep strengthens emotional regulation. After adequate rest, you perceive situations more accurately, respond more appropriately, and recover more quickly from emotional challenges. This is why sleeping on it before making important decisions often leads to wiser choices. Sleep doesn't just rest your body, it recalibrates your emotional system. Tonight, even if you can't solve all the stressors in your life, you can gift yourself this recalibration, this reset, this gentle restoration that makes everything else more manageable tomorrow. Digital technology and constant connectivity create unique modern stressors that your nervous system wasn't designed to handle. Research shows that the average person checks their phone over 90 times per day, creating continuous partial attention rather than sustained focus. Each notification, each context switch, creates a tiny stress response as your brain shifts attention. Social media comparison, news consumption, work emails bleeding into personal time, all create stresses previous generations never faced. Studies found that people who take regular digital detoxes, even just a few hours before bed, show lower cortisol levels and better sleep quality. The blue light emitted by screens suppresses melatonin, but the content you consume, anxiety-provoking news, social comparison, work demands, may be even more disruptive. Your nervous system needs downtime, periods without input or demands. It needs boredom, stillness, silence to properly process and integrate experiences. Tonight, whatever brought you here, hopefully not a phone screen in bed, you're creating that necessary space. This is countercultural, choosing stillness over stimulation, rest over productivity. But it's precisely what your ancient nervous system needs to function in the modern world. The practice of meditation has been extensively studied, and research confirms it creates structural changes in the brain that enhance stress resilience. Long-term meditators show increased gray matter in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, while showing decreased volume in the amygdala. But you don't need years of practice to benefit. Even 8 weeks of daily meditation practice produces measurable changes. What meditation essentially does is train attention regulation, the ability to notice where your mind has gone and gently redirect it. This skill applies directly to stress management. When you notice you're ruminating about past regrets or worrying about future possibilities, you can recognize it and redirect attention to the present moment. Meditation isn't about achieving some special state or stopping all thoughts. It's simply practiced attention, repeated thousands of times. Notice the breath. Mind wanders. Gently return. Notice the breath. Mind wanders. Gently return. This simple practice literally rewires your brain, strengthening the neural pathways that allow you to shift out of stress reactivity. Right now, you're engaging in a form of guided meditation, your attention gently held by these words, repeatedly returned to the present moment, to your breath, to the simple fact of existing here and now. Meaning and purpose serve as powerful buffers against stress. People who have a strong sense of purpose, feeling their life matters and serves something beyond themselves, experience the same stresses as others, but report less distress and better health outcomes. Research shows this isn't just psychological. Purpose affects physiology. People with higher sense of purpose show lower inflammation markers, better immune function, and reduced cortisol responses to stress. Purpose doesn't need to be grand. It can be raising children, creating art, helping your community, tending a garden, being present for friends. What matters is the felt sense that your existence contributes to something meaningful, that your actions ripple outward in ways that matter. During times of high stress, connecting to purpose can help you endure difficulty. This doesn't eliminate the stress, but it provides context that makes the struggle feel worthwhile. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote that those who found meaning in their suffering were more likely to survive. You're not responsible for finding silver linings in every difficulty, but gently exploring what gives your life meaning, what you're working toward or caring for, can help carry you through challenging times. Tonight, you might sense what matters most to you, what you're protecting by taking this time to restore yourself. Interoception, the ability to sense internal bodily signals like heartbeat, breathing, hunger, fullness, muscle tension, directly impacts emotional awareness and stress management. Research published in Nature Reviews Neuroscience shows that people with greater interoceptive accuracy are better at identifying their emotions and regulating stress. This makes sense. Emotions have physical components, and if you can't sense those physical signals, you can't fully identify or respond to emotions. The insular cortex, a brain region involved in interoception, shows altered activity in people with anxiety and stress disorders. Practices that enhance interoception, body scan meditations, yoga, mindful movement, even just pausing to notice physical sensations, improve emotional regulation and stress resilience. This isn't mysterious or complicated. It simply means paying attention to what your body is telling you right now. Scanning through your body, you might notice subtle sensations. Maybe slight pressure where your body contacts the surface beneath you. Maybe the rhythm of your breath. Maybe temperature, texture, the quality of muscle tension or relaxation. These sensations are information. Your body constantly communicating its state, inviting you to respond with whatever it needs. Rest, movement, nourishment, release. The stress of modern life often involves anticipatory anxiety, worrying about things that haven't happened yet and may never happen. Your brain is designed to anticipate and prepare for future challenges. But this system can malfunction, creating excessive worry about unlikely scenarios. Studies found that anticipated events are often experienced as more stressful than actual events because anticipation lacks the resolution and adaptation that comes when you actually face challenges. When something difficult actually happens, you respond, cope, and eventually adapt. But anticipated difficulties sit in perpetual potentiality, never quite materializing, but never quite resolving either. The antidote isn't to stop planning or ignore real concerns. It's to notice when you've crossed from productive preparation into unproductive worry. Ask yourself, is there anything I can do right now about this concern? If yes, do it, or plan when you'll do it. If no, practice returning to the present moment where, usually, right now is manageable. Right now you're breathing. Right now you're safe. Right now the future hasn't arrived yet. this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. These are the only things actually happening. Everything else is thought, projection, story. Those can wait. The relationship between stress and inflammation is becoming increasingly clear through research. Chronic stress triggers inflammatory responses throughout your body. Increased production of inflammatory proteins called cytokines, particularly interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. This stress-induced inflammation contributes to numerous health problems: cardiovascular disease, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, even depression. A comprehensive review found that depression itself may be partly an inflammatory condition, where cytokines affect brain function and mood. But the relationship runs both ways. Anti-inflammatory practices, regular exercise, adequate sleep, anti-inflammatory diet, stress management, social connection, reduce inflammation and improve both physical and mental health. What's remarkable is how quickly the body can shift when given the right conditions. Even a few days of improved sleep and reduced stress can measurably decrease inflammation markers. Your body wants to heal. It's constantly working toward balance. Chronic stress and poor sleep keep pushing it away from that balance. But when you create conditions for healing, like you're doing right now, the body immediately begins moving back toward equilibrium. Anti-inflammatory processes activate. Stress hormones decline. Balance begins to restore itself. Halfway through this journey together, let's acknowledge something important. Releasing stress isn't about perfection or completely eliminating all stress from your life. That's neither possible nor desirable. Some stress motivates growth. Some challenges are worthwhile. The goal isn't absence of stress, but rather healthy relationship with stress. The ability to activate when needed and deactivate when the challenge passes. You've been learning about this tonight, exploring the mechanisms of stress and the pathways to release. But more than intellectual understanding, you've been practicing release in real time, with each breath that's deepened, each muscle that's softened, each thought you've allowed to drift past rather than grasping, each moment you've permitted yourself to rest despite everything else demanding your attention. This is the work. Not just knowing about stress release, but actually doing it, experiencing it, allowing it. The second half of our journey will continue this exploration, moving toward deeper understanding and deeper release. But for now, notice where you are. You've made it halfway. Your nervous system is already shifting, already responding to the care you're offering it, already beginning to remember what safety feels like, what peace tastes like, what your natural state actually is beneath all the accumulated stress. We continue now, moving deeper, and pause here with me. Let each breath remind you, time is yours. This moment is yours. While the vast world continues spinning with all its demands and complications, this second you're breathing, listening, belongs to you alone. You don't need to solve anything right now. You don't need to become anything different. You don't need to achieve perfect relaxation or flawless peace. Simply being here, simply breathing, simply allowing. This is enough. Feel the weight of your body fully supported. Notice you're not holding yourself up through effort. Something beneath you is doing that work. You can trust it. You can let go. And we continue drifting. Your nervous system has what researchers call neuroception. unconscious detection of safety versus threat in your environment. This happens beneath conscious awareness, scanning for cues that signal danger or security. Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, continually refined through recent years, explains how your autonomic nervous system responds to these cues. Safe environments, gentle voices, calm faces, predictable rhythms trigger the ventral vagal pathway, promoting social engagement and rest. Threatening environments trigger sympathetic activation, or, if threat is overwhelming, dorsal vagal shutdown. What's profound is that you can intentionally create cues of safety that shift your nervous system's state. Slow breathing, soft music, gentle lighting, comfortable temperature. These signal safety. Your voice matters too. Speaking kindly to yourself, using soothing tones, even in inner dialogue, influences your nervous system. Tonight you're surrounding yourself with safety cues, teaching your body it can lower its guard. It can trust this moment. Grief and loss create a unique form of stress because they're unavoidable and often have no clear resolution. Research shows grief activates similar brain regions as physical pain. The loss of connection, whether through death, relationship ending, or major life transitions, genuinely hurts. Stress compounds when people try to rush through grief or judge themselves for how long healing takes. There's no standard timeline. Complicated grief can persist for years. What helps isn't pushing grief away, but allowing it to move through you in waves. Feeling it when it comes, resting when it recedes. Grief teaches that some things can't be fixed, only endured and eventually integrated. The stress comes partly from fighting this truth, from wanting to control what can't be controlled. Acceptance doesn't mean liking what happened. It means acknowledging reality as it is, allowing yourself to feel what you feel without adding judgment. If you're carrying grief tonight, you don't need to release it or get over it. Simply allowing it to exist alongside your need for rest, honoring both sorrow and your need for healing. This is profound wisdom. The concept of stress mindset from Stanford research shows that how you think about stress affects its impact on you. People who view stress as harmful, believing it damages health and should be avoided, experience worse outcomes than those who view stress as challenging but potentially enhancing. This isn't positive thinking or denial. Studies found that reframing stress responses as helpful, increased heart rate means more oxygen to your brain. Tension means preparation. Actually changes physiological outcomes. The stress response itself becomes less damaging when interpreted as your body marshalling resources rather than breaking down. This doesn't mean all stress is good. Chronic, uncontrollable stress remains harmful. But moderate stress, when viewed as a challenge you can meet, can actually enhance performance and growth. The difference lies in perceived controllability and your interpretation of bodily sensations. Tonight, if you notice your body still holding some tension, you might interpret it not as failure to relax, but as your body slowly, carefully releasing what it's been holding. Each breath, each moment of rest, you're supporting that release. Compassion fatigue affects people in helping professions, but also anyone who cares deeply about others' suffering. When you repeatedly witness or absorb others' pain, whether family, friends, or global crises through news media, your capacity for empathy can become depleted. Studies found that compassion fatigue involves both emotional exhaustion and decreased ability to feel empathy, creating guilt and secondary trauma. The antidote is self-compassion and boundaries. You can care deeply without absorbing all suffering into yourself. You can maintain empathy while protecting your own well-being. This isn't selfish. Depleted compassion helps no one. Like flight attendants instruct, secure your own oxygen mask first, then help others. Your capacity to support others depends on maintaining your own resilience. If you're feeling exhausted from caring, from worrying about loved ones or the world's problems, you're not failing. You're experiencing a natural limitation of human capacity. The kindest thing you can do for yourself and ultimately for others is restore yourself. Rest. Protect your energy. Remember, you can't solve every problem, fix every person, heal every wound, but you can show up tomorrow if you rest well tonight. The practice of acceptance doesn't mean resignation or giving up. In acceptance and commitment therapy, validated through decades of research, acceptance means acknowledging reality as it is, without adding resistance that creates additional suffering. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is often optional, arising from struggling against what already is. Reviews found acceptance-based approaches effective for anxiety, depression, chronic pain, and stress-related conditions. The practice involves noticing resistance, that this shouldn't be happening thoughts, and gently releasing the struggle against reality. This creates space for values-based action rather than avoidance-based action. Instead of, "I'll be happy when this stress ends," acceptance allows life includes stress, and I can still act on what matters to me. This shift reduces suffering because you're no longer fighting both the actual problem and your reaction to the problem. Tonight, you might notice what you're resisting. Maybe you're resisting being awake. Maybe resisting thoughts that won't quiet. Maybe resisting tomorrow's challenges. Gently, without judgment, try releasing the resistance. Allow what is to simply be. In that allowing, often, natural relaxation emerges. Social comparison, amplified enormously by social media, creates persistent stress that's often invisible because it's become normalized. Research shows that comparing yourself to others activates stress responses and reduces life satisfaction. The comparison trap works both ways. Comparing upward creates inadequacy. Comparing downward creates anxiety about losing status. Your brain's comparison mechanisms evolved when you lived in small communities where you knew everyone's actual circumstances. Now you compare yourself to curated highlights from thousands of people's lives. An impossible standard. The antidote isn't pretending differences don't exist, but rather recognizing comparison as a thought pattern that doesn't serve you. Notice when you're comparing. Gently redirect to your own values, your own journey. Ask, what matters to me? Regardless of what others are doing, what brings me meaning? Social media fasting, even briefly, consistently shows stress reduction and mood improvement. You don't need to delete everything. Just notice what content leaves you feeling diminished and consider whether consuming it serves your well-being. Tonight, you're not competing with anyone. There's no right way to do this. Your journey toward rest is yours alone. The relationship between posture and stress runs both directions. Chronic stress creates characteristic postures. hunched shoulders, collapsed chest, forward head position. But deliberately changing your posture also affects your emotional state. Studies in biofeedback found that adopting open postures, shoulders back, chest open, head level, for just 2 minutes reduces cortisol and increases feelings of confidence and power. This seems almost too simple to be true, but the mind-body connection is bidirectional. How you hold your body influences how you feel emotionally. Research on embodied cognition shows that your physical position sends signals to your brain about your state. Collapsed posture signals defeat or danger. Open posture signals safety and capability. Right now, you might adjust how you're positioned, not rigidly, but gently allowing your body to unfold, to take up space, to release protective hunching. Your body is allowed to relax, to be vulnerable in this safe moment. Opening physically can help you open emotionally, releasing tension held in the very structure of how you meet the world. The stress of decision fatigue is real and measurable. Research shows that making decisions depletes cognitive resources. And as you make more decisions throughout the day, each subsequent decision becomes harder, and you're more likely to avoid decisions or make poor choices. Studies found that people make an average of 35,000 decisions per day, from trivial choices to significant ones. Each depletes the same pool of mental energy. This is why simple routines reduce stress. They eliminate decisions. It's also why chronic stress makes decision-making harder. You're starting with depleted resources. Understanding decision fatigue helps you extend compassion to yourself when you feel overwhelmed by choices. It's not weakness, it's biology. Strategies that help include making important decisions early in the day, creating routines for recurring choices, and reducing unnecessary options. Tonight, you've already made the most important decision: to prioritize rest. Everything else can wait. You don't need to decide anything right now. Your only job is to allow yourself to drift, to release, to let go. Loneliness is recognized as a significant health risk, comparable to smoking or obesity, creating chronic stress through perceived social isolation. Research shows loneliness triggers inflammatory responses and stress hormones while suppressing immune function. What's particularly important is that loneliness is subjective. You can feel lonely in a crowd or feel connected with few relationships. The key is perceived quality of connection. One deep friendship provides more stress buffering than numerous acquaintances. For people experiencing loneliness, small steps matter. Joining groups aligned with interests, volunteering, even brief interactions with strangers. Research shows that connection is a skill that can be developed, not a fixed trait. It requires vulnerability, the willingness to be seen, to risk rejection, to show up authentically. If you're feeling isolated, know that this is incredibly common, especially in modern society. It doesn't mean you're unlovable or broken. It means you're human, needing connection. In a world that often makes genuine connection difficult, tonight, even through these words, there's a form of connection. One mind speaking, countless others listening, all of us sharing this quiet moment together. The practice of savoring, fully engaging with positive experiences, extending them, noticing details, builds resilience against stress. Research shows people who regularly savor positive moments report lower stress, and higher life satisfaction. Savoring works by balancing the brain's negativity bias, which evolved to keep you alert to threats. Without intentional attention to positive experiences, your brain naturally dwells on problems while letting pleasant moments pass unnoticed. Savoring doesn't require grand experiences. Notice the warmth of morning sun, the first sip of coffee, a moment of laughter, a kind exchange. These small positives accumulate, gradually shifting your overall sense of well-being. Right now, you might notice what's pleasant in this moment. Perhaps comfort where you're resting. Perhaps the sound of these words creating gentle company. Perhaps the simple relief of pausing, of stepping away from demands. Allowing yourself to notice these small goods, even briefly, trains your nervous system toward greater balance. Sleep debt. Accumulated insufficient sleep over multiple nights creates stress effects that compound over time. You can't fully repay sleep debt through weekend catch-up sleep, though it helps somewhat. Studies found that chronic sleep restriction, even moderate amounts like sleeping 6 hours instead of 7 or 8, accumulates impairment that reaches levels equivalent to complete sleep deprivation after just 2 weeks. The stress this creates is insidious because you adapt to feeling tired, not realizing how impaired you've become. Cognitive function, emotional regulation, physical health, all suffer progressively. The solution isn't perfection but gentle consistency. Prioritizing sleep most nights allows your body to maintain baseline functioning. Tonight isn't about repaying all accumulated debt. It's simply about honoring your body's need now, in this moment, reducing tomorrow's burden slightly. Each night of adequate rest contributes to long-term resilience, gradually restoring what chronic stress and insufficient sleep have depleted. These invisible processes are deeply important. Without this nightly restoration, without these moments when you choose your well-being over endless doing, stress would consume rather than inform. The concept of emotional labor, managing your emotions to meet social or professional expectations, creates unique stress that's often invisible and undervalued. Service workers maintain cheerful demeanors regardless of how they feel. Caregivers suppress frustration. People in marginalized groups manage others' comfort around difficult topics. Studies found that chronic emotional labor increases burnout and decreases well-being, particularly when it involves surface acting, displaying emotions you don't actually feel. Deep acting, actually trying to feel what you're expressing, is less stressful but still depleting. The stress comes from the disconnect between inner experience and outer expression, from never being allowed to simply be as you are. If your life involves significant emotional labor, recognize this as real work that deserves recognition and recovery time. You need spaces where you can drop the performance, feel what you actually feel, exist without managing others' comfort. Tonight can be such a space. You don't need to be anything other than exactly what you are. Tired, stressed, seeking rest. No performance required. No emotion management. Just honest being. The relationship between stress and memory is complex and bidirectional. Moderate acute stress can enhance memory formation, helping you remember important events. But chronic stress impairs both memory formation and recall. The hippocampus, important for memory, is particularly vulnerable to stress hormones. Prolonged cortisol exposure can actually shrink the hippocampus, contributing to memory problems. Studies found this damage is reversible with stress reduction and adequate sleep, but recovery takes time. Interestingly, stress affects different types of memory differently. Emotional memories, especially threatening ones, become stronger with stress. The reason traumatic events are often vividly remembered, but mundane memories, learning new information, recalling details, these all become harder under stress. If you've noticed memory problems during stressful periods, you're not imagining it. Your brain is genuinely impaired by stress hormones. Tonight, as you rest, your brain can begin consolidating memories properly, sorting experiences, filing them appropriately, clearing out unnecessary details. This nightly housekeeping is valuable for cognitive function. Anticipatory stress, the anxiety leading up to events, often exceeds the stress of the actual event. Studies found that people report higher stress levels before presentations, medical procedures, or difficult conversations than during them. Once you're actually in the situation, you focus on responding, but beforehand, your imagination generates endless scenarios, most of which never occur. This anticipatory stress serves an evolutionary purpose, preparing for possibilities, but often becomes excessive and unproductive. The paradox is that worrying about how stressed you'll be creates more total stress than the event itself. Recognizing this pattern doesn't eliminate anticipatory anxiety, but it helps you contextualize it. The story your mind is creating about future stress is just that, a story, not reality. When you actually face tomorrow's challenges, you'll respond in the moment, right now. Tomorrow hasn't arrived. The only stress existing in this actual moment is the stress you're bringing from past or projecting into future, the present moment. If you can rest in it, often contains far less stress than your mind suggests. The practice of urge surfing, developed for addiction treatment but applicable to stress management, teaches riding uncomfortable sensations without acting on them. When you feel stressed, you might have urges to check your phone, eat, drink, distract yourself. Instead of automatically acting, urge surfing means noticing the urge, observing how it feels in your body, watching it rise and eventually crest and fall like a wave. Research shows most urges peak within 15 to 30 minutes if you don't act on them. The stress comes partly from believing you must immediately eliminate uncomfortable feelings. But feelings are temporary states, constantly changing. Learning to tolerate temporary discomfort without immediately reacting builds profound stress resilience. You discover that uncomfortable feelings won't destroy you, that you can wait them out, that reactivity is a choice rather than a necessity. Tonight, if uncomfortable thoughts or feelings arise, anxiety about tomorrow, regret about today, frustration about still being awake, you might practice gentle observation. Notice the thought. Notice any physical sensations. Breathe. Wait. Watch it change, as all experiences eventually do. Physical pain and emotional pain share neural pathways, which is why the same regions of the brain activate whether you're experiencing physical injury or social rejection. Reviews in Nature Neuroscience found that chronic stress sensitizes pain pathways, meaning the same injury hurts more when you're stressed. Conversely, physical pain increases stress and emotional reactivity. This creates potential cycles where pain increases stress. Stress amplifies pain, but the shared pathways also mean techniques that reduce physical pain can reduce emotional pain, and vice versa. Gentle movement, heat, massage help both. Mindfulness, reframing, social support help both. The mind-body division is largely artificial. You're an integrated system where physical and emotional states constantly influence each other. Tonight, if you're carrying physical or emotional pain, know they're both real. Both matter. Both deserve gentleness. You can't always eliminate pain immediately, but you can meet it with compassion rather than resistance, which often reduces its power over you. The concept of time affluence, feeling you have enough time, is a stronger predictor of well-being than actual financial wealth. Research shows that people who feel time-stressed report lower life satisfaction regardless of income level. Modern culture often treats busyness as a status symbol, but chronic time scarcity creates persistent stress. The antidote isn't necessarily having more time, but rather changing your relationship with time. Small practices help. Single tasking instead of multitasking. Building buffer time between commitments. Saying no to protect time for rest and relationships. Recognizing that productive time isn't the only valuable time. Rest is productive in ways that matter deeply, even if they don't produce measurable output. Tonight, you're reclaiming time for yourself, asserting that your well-being deserves time investment. This isn't selfish or wasteful. It's recognition that you can't pour from an empty vessel, that sustainable living requires regular restoration, that you're worth caring for. The stress of financial insecurity is unique because it affects every aspect of life and often feels inescapable. Research shows financial stress activates the same threat responses as physical danger. Chronic financial worry impairs cognitive function, makes it harder to make good decisions, and creates a vicious cycle where stress impairs the very capabilities needed to improve finances. Longitudinal studies found that financial stress in childhood affects stress reactivity and health outcomes decades later. This isn't about individual failure. Systemic factors, inequality, wage stagnation, rising costs, create widespread financial stress. If you're experiencing financial worry, be gentle with yourself. This is one of the hardest forms of stress because it's often chronic and feels uncontrollable. Small steps matter. Seeking financial counseling, connecting with community resources, focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't. Tonight might not solve financial problems, but rest helps you face them with greater resilience. Problems unsolved but energy restored feels different than problems unsolved and energy depleted. The relationship between stress and digestive health is profound and often underestimated. Your gut contains hundreds of millions of neurons, essentially a second brain that communicates constantly with your central nervous system. Stress diverts blood flow away from digestion, alters gut motility, and changes the composition of gut bacteria. Studies found that chronic stress increases intestinal permeability, allowing partially digested particles and bacteria to pass through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream, triggering inflammation throughout the body. This creates bidirectional effects. Stress damages gut health. Poor gut health increases stress vulnerability. Symptoms like irritable bowel syndrome, acid reflux, and other digestive issues often worsen with stress. Healing involves addressing both the stress and the gut health, managing stress while supporting digestion through gentle nutrition, adequate sleep, probiotics if appropriate, movement tonight, allowing your digestive system to rest along with the rest of you, not asking it to process late meals or high-stress hormones. Creates space for healing. The practice of noting in mindfulness meditation, silently labeling experiences as they arise without elaboration, creates helpful distance from stressful thoughts. When an anxious thought appears, simply noting worry, or planning, or fear, prevents getting lost in the thought's content. Studies found that noting reduces emotional reactivity by engaging the prefrontal cortex's observation mode rather than the amygdala's reaction mode. The technique is simple but powerful. Thought arises. Note. Thought. Sensation appears. Note. Sensation. Emotion emerges. Note. Emotion. This acknowledges experience while preventing identification with it. You're not your thoughts. You're the awareness noticing thoughts. That distinction creates freedom. Tonight, if your mind generates worried thoughts about tomorrow, you might practice gentle noting, planning, worry, rehearsing, no judgment, no getting involved, just quiet acknowledgement. The thoughts can continue their movement, but you don't have to follow where they lead. The concept of allostatic load, the cumulative wear and tear on your body from chronic stress, helps explain why stress affects health long-term. Each stress response activates systems meant for brief use. Elevated blood pressure, increased blood sugar, suppressed immune function. When these become chronic, damage accumulates. Studies tracking people over 20 years found that high allostatic load in young adulthood predicts health problems, cognitive decline, and mortality decades later. This isn't meant to frighten, but to acknowledge reality. Chronic stress has real costs, but allostatic load can be reduced. The body can heal. Every intervention that reduces stress, sleep, exercise, social connection, stress management, therapy, contributes to lowering your accumulated burden. Recovery isn't instant, but it's possible. Tonight, you're not just resting for tomorrow. You're investing in your long-term health, reducing accumulated wear, giving your body the restoration it needs to face years ahead, not just the next day. Perfectionism creates chronic stress through impossible standards and harsh self-judgment when those standards aren't met. Perfectionists experience higher levels of anxiety, depression, and stress-related health problems. The difference between healthy achievement and toxic perfectionism lies in self-talk and response to mistakes. Healthy achievers set ambitious goals but treat themselves kindly when falling short, viewing setbacks as learning opportunities. Perfectionists equate any perceived failure with worthlessness, creating chronic anxiety about performance. Research shows this pattern often develops early, sometimes from conditional approval or high-pressure environments. Breaking perfectionist patterns involves recognizing that self-criticism doesn't improve performance. It actually impairs it by creating fear that interferes with learning. Self-compassion, by contrast, allows you to acknowledge mistakes without devastating self-judgment, creating space to learn and grow. Tonight, if you're judging yourself for struggling with stress or not relaxing perfectly, Notice that judgment. Would you talk to a friend this way? Probably not. Try offering yourself the same kindness you'd extend to someone you care about. The stress of major life transitions, moving, job changes, relationship shifts, loss, often goes unrecognized because the change itself might be positive. Studies found that even desired changes create stress because they require adaptation, disrupt routines, and involve uncertainty. Marriage, new baby, promotion, all can be stressful even while being joyful. The Holmes and Rahe stress scale, created in the 1960s and updated regularly, quantifies stress from life events, showing that positive and negative changes both impact health. Understanding this helps you have compassion during transitions. You're not ungrateful or weak if positive changes feel hard. You're human, adjusting to new circumstances, managing multiple emotions simultaneously. Transitions require extra gentleness with yourself, extra rest, extra support. If you're in transition now, whatever kind, recognize you're navigating complexity that deserves acknowledgement. Tonight, allowing yourself to rest despite, or especially because of, change, honors your need for stability even as life shifts around you. The practice of loving kindness meditation, where you direct well wishes toward yourself and others, has been shown to reduce stress and increase positive emotions. Meta-analyses found that even brief loving kindness practice decreases cortisol, increases vagal tone, and improves social connection. The practice typically involves phrases like, "May I be safe," "May I be healthy," "May I be at peace," gradually extending these wishes to others. What makes this powerful for stress relief is that it directly counters the isolation and self-criticism that often accompany stress. You're actively cultivating warmth toward yourself and recognizing shared humanity with others. The words matter less than the intention. Genuine wish for well-being. You can adapt phrases to what feels authentic. Right now, you might silently offer yourself kindness. May I find rest. May stress release its hold. May I wake refreshed. These aren't magical incantations, but intentions that shape your mental state, directing attention toward care rather than criticism, toward connection rather than isolation. Understanding that stress release is a process, not an event, helps maintain realistic expectations and prevents additional stress about not feeling better immediately. Your nervous system has been in a certain state potentially for weeks, months, even years. It won't completely recalibrate in a single night, though tonight can begin the shift. Research shows that consistent small practices accumulate into significant changes over time. A few minutes of daily breathing exercises, regular sleep schedule, weekly connection with friends, monthly time in nature. These compound, gradually shifting your baseline stress level. The key is consistency and patience, recognizing that healing isn't linear. You might feel wonderful one day and stressed again the next. That's not failure. That's the natural oscillation of recovery. Tonight, you're not trying to fix everything. You're simply offering yourself care, planting seeds that will grow with repetition and time. Some relief might come immediately. Deeper healing will unfold across many nights, many practices, many moments of choosing your well-being. Both matter. Both are real. Both are happening right now. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Feel the cycles. Your heart beats without your command. Your lungs breathe whether you attend to them or not. Your body heals itself in countless ways you'll never consciously know. All are circles, where the cycles, endless rhythms, like your breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. A small cycle within vast patterns of living and resting, waking and sleeping, holding and releasing. You are part of eternal movement. You don't need to control everything. You don't need to hold on to anything. Let everything unfold in its perfect order, like planets silently rotating in their orbits, unhurried, unresisting, simply existing. We're almost there now. The wisdom of letting go appears in countless traditions because it addresses a fundamental human tendency: grasping, controlling, holding tight. Stress often intensifies when you try to control what cannot be controlled. Thoughts continue regardless of attempts to stop them. The future remains uncertain no matter how much you worry. Other people make their own choices. Letting go doesn't mean not caring. It means recognizing the limits of your influence, releasing the exhausting struggle to control the uncontrollable. What you can control is your response, your attention, your choices about self-care. Tonight, practice letting go of just one thing: a worry about tomorrow, judgment about today, the need to fall asleep at a certain time. Release your grip slightly, trusting that you'll manage whatever comes. Your body knows how to release stress naturally through physical expressions: crying, laughing, shaking, sighing, even yawning. These aren't signs of weakness, but ancient stress release mechanisms. Research shows that tears contain stress hormones. Crying literally eliminates them from your body. Laughter triggers endorphin release and muscle relaxation. Trembling after frightening experiences helps discharge stress energy. Sighing resets your breathing pattern. Modern culture often suppresses these natural releases, teaching us to hold everything in, stay composed. But allowing natural release is healing. If you feel like crying, let yourself cry. If laughter bubbles up, let it flow. Your body has wisdom about what it needs to release. Right now, you might try a deep sigh. Breathe in fully, then release with sound. Notice how your body feels slightly lighter. The beauty of small rituals: lighting a candle, making tea, arranging objects, reading before bed, lies in their ability to signal safety and transition to your nervous system. Rituals mark boundaries between day and night, stress and rest, public and private self. Studies found that consistent evening routines improve sleep quality, partly through conditioning. Your body learns to anticipate rest when familiar rituals begin. But rituals also provide control in an uncertain world. You can't control tomorrow's challenges, but you can control this moment of tea preparation, this arrangement of pillows, this deliberate transition into rest. Rituals don't need to be elaborate. Simple consistency matters more than complexity. You're creating a small ceremony, honoring your need for rest, marking this time as meaningful. The concept of response flexibility, having multiple ways to respond to stress rather than defaulting to habitual patterns, is a key component of resilience. Some people always respond to stress by withdrawing. Others always become irritable. Others work harder. Having only one response limits effectiveness because different situations require different responses. Studies found that people with greater response flexibility recover more quickly from setbacks and report better well-being. Developing flexibility means building a toolkit of strategies. Sometimes you need to act, sometimes to rest, sometimes to seek support, sometimes to sit with discomfort. The more options you have, the more likely you can find an effective response. Tonight, you're practicing the response of rest, of allowing, of not doing. This might not be your habitual stress response. That's okay. You're expanding your options. The practice of gratitude journaling, writing down things you're grateful for, has been extensively studied and consistently shows stress reduction and mood improvement. But the mechanism isn't what most people assume. It's not about pretending everything is wonderful or ignoring difficulties. It's about training attention to notice what's present alongside difficulty. Both, and rather than either or. Life contains stress and support, challenge and comfort, loss and love. Gratitude practice helps you perceive the full picture rather than only the threats. Studies found that the benefit comes from specificity and genuine feeling, not forced positivity. I'm grateful for my friend's text checking on me works better than generic. I'm grateful for friends. Right now, you might notice one specific thing you appreciate. Perhaps the quiet of this hour. Perhaps having a place to rest. The wisdom of this too shall pass offers perspective that can soften stress. No state is permanent. The most intense emotions, the hardest challenges, the worst stress, all are temporary. Brain imaging shows that emotional states, even intense ones, typically peak within 90 seconds if you don't re-trigger them with additional thoughts. The wave rises, crests, and falls. Suffering extends when you keep re-triggering the wave, replaying the stressor, imagining worst outcomes. Remembering impermanence doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it provides context. This hard moment is one moment in the vast expanse of your life. It will pass. Different challenges will arise. They too will pass. The constancy is change itself, right now. Even as you listen, your state is shifting from where you began this journey. You're not the same. By tomorrow, you'll have shifted again. Nothing stays the same. This includes stress. The healing power of nature extends beyond just being outdoors. Even small connections with natural elements reduce stress. Plants in your living space lower cortisol. Natural light improves mood. Sound of rain or ocean soothes your nervous system. Studies found that people with windows overlooking natural scenes recover faster from stress and illness than those overlooking urban environments. If you can't access nature regularly, bringing elements of nature to you still helps. Images of natural scenes, recordings of natural sounds, even fractals, the repeating patterns found in trees, clouds, coastlines, have calming effects when viewed. Your nervous system recognizes these patterns from evolutionary history. Tonight, you might imagine yourself in nature, a forest, beach, meadow. Your brain will respond to the visualization. The practice of conscious breathing isn't just about relaxation in the moment, but also about rewiring your stress response over time. Research shows that regular breathing practices actually change your baseline stress reactivity. People who practice daily breathing exercises for several weeks show decreased amygdala reactivity and increased prefrontal cortex activation when facing stressors. You're literally retraining your nervous system's default response. Stress still happens, but you recover faster. React less intensely. Return to baseline more quickly. The breath serves as an anchor, always available. No matter what's happening externally, you can always return to breath. This constancy provides stability in unstable times. Right now, simply noticing breath. You don't need to change it, just observe. The concept of post-traumatic growth, positive changes that can emerge from struggling with difficult circumstances, offers hope without minimizing suffering. Research shows that many people who face major stresses or trauma eventually report enhanced appreciation for life, stronger relationships, increased personal strength, recognition of new possibilities, or spiritual growth. This doesn't mean trauma is good or should be sought. Suffering is real and deserves acknowledgement. But humans possess remarkable capacity to find meaning, even in difficulty, to be transformed by challenge in ways that include growth alongside pain. Studies found that people who engage with their difficulties, processing them, seeking meaning, allowing themselves to be changed, are more likely to experience growth than those who suppress or avoid. The practice of body-based stress release through movement, dance, shaking, stretching, honors the fact that stress is stored in your body, not just your mind. Verbal processing helps, but sometimes the body needs direct physical release. Trauma-informed somatic practices recognize this, working with bodily sensations rather than only thoughts and emotions. Reviews of somatic therapies found significant benefits for PTSD, anxiety, and chronic stress. You don't need formal therapy to access some benefits. Simply moving in ways that feel good, stretching tense areas, shaking out your arms, swaying gently, can help release stored tension. Tonight, even small movements can help. Rolling shoulders, stretching your jaw, wiggling toes. These aren't silly. They're listening to your body. The truth that stress release is available to you always, in any moment. Through simple presence offers profound freedom. You don't need special conditions, perfect circumstances, or weeks away. Right now, this breath, this moment of awareness, stress can begin releasing. It won't all dissolve instantly, but the process can start. Stress accumulates gradually. Release can also happen gradually, breath by breath, moment by moment. The practices you've been learning tonight, breathing, body awareness, self-compassion, letting go, these are available always. In difficult meetings, you can take one conscious breath. In overwhelming moments, you can notice one physical sensation. Small moments of presence, repeatedly chosen, transform your relationship with stress over time. The understanding that you're doing the best you can with the resources you currently have offers relief from self-judgment. If you could handle stress better in this moment, you would. The fact that you're struggling doesn't mean you're weak or failing. It means you're facing challenges that exceed your current capacity. The solution isn't harsh self-criticism, but rather expanding capacity, building resources, developing skills, creating support. This happens gradually, with patience and self-compassion. Right now, being here, listening, trying to rest despite difficulty. This is your best in this moment. It's enough. Tomorrow, with rest, perhaps your capacity will be slightly greater. This isn't excuse-making. It's recognizing reality with compassion. Your dreams serve stress-processing functions, working through emotional experiences in the safety of sleep. During REM sleep, your brain essentially rehearses emotional scenarios with the stress chemicals turned off. This allows processing without re-traumatization. Research shows that REM sleep helps integrate difficult experiences, reducing their emotional charge. Studies found that people who sleep well after stressful events show better emotional adjustment than those with disrupted sleep. Your brain knows how to heal itself, given the right conditions. Sleep provides those conditions. Safe, quiet, protected time for the mind to sort accumulated experiences, filing what's useful, discarding what's not, softening sharp edges of difficult memories. The recognition that rest is productive, even though it produces nothing visible, challenges cultural narratives about worthiness and value. Your worth doesn't depend on productivity, achievement, or output. You're valuable simply by existing. Rest that produces only restoration, that creates only well-being, is profoundly valuable even though it generates no product. The drive to always be doing, producing, achieving creates chronic stress because rest feels like failure, like wasted time. But rest is when your body repairs tissues. Your brain consolidates learning. Your immune system strengthens. Your nervous system recalibrates. Without rest, eventually, you can't produce anything. Rest isn't a luxury for after everything is done. It's a necessity for being able to do anything at all. Tonight, you're engaging in the worthwhile act of resting before everything is complete. The practice of urge interruption, pausing before reacting to stress, creates space for wise response rather than automatic reaction. Between stimulus and response lies a gap. In that gap is your power to choose. Most stress reactions happen automatically. Someone criticizes you. You become defensive. Work piles up. You panic. Uncertainty arises. You worry. These automatic reactions are learned patterns, not inevitable responses. Studies found that even a 5-second pause before responding allows different brain regions to engage, often leading to more effective responses. The pause doesn't need to solve anything. It simply creates space. In that space, you can breathe. You can notice what you're feeling. Tonight, you're practicing an extended pause, stepping back from your day, from tomorrow's worries. This pause allows you to choose rest, the healing that happens in authentic connection, where you can be yourself without performance or pretense. Reduces stress in ways that surface interactions cannot. Research shows that conversations where people share vulnerable feelings activate different neural pathways than polite small talk. The feeling of being truly seen, truly known, and still accepted profoundly affects well-being. This doesn't mean you should share deeply with everyone. Boundaries matter, but it means finding at least some relationships where authenticity is possible, where you don't have to manage others' comfort. If you lack such connections currently, this represents real stress. Building authentic connection starts small. Sharing one genuine feeling with a trusted person. Joining groups aligned with your values. Tonight, there's no need to perform. You can exist as you are. Stressed, tired, imperfect, doing your best. The understanding that healing isn't linear, that progress includes setbacks, prevents the additional stress of judging yourself for struggles. You might sleep well tonight and poorly tomorrow. You might feel peaceful this evening and anxious next week. This doesn't mean you've failed or lost progress. Healing spirals. You revisit similar challenges, but from different vantage points, with slightly more resources each time. Longitudinal studies tracking people through stress recovery found that everyone experienced ups and downs. But the overall trajectory moved toward greater well-being for those who persisted with self-care. Setbacks are information, not failure. They show you what still needs attention. Meeting setbacks with curiosity rather than judgment allows you to learn from them. The power of simply witnessing your own experience without trying to change it can be profoundly healing. Much stress comes from resistance. The original difficulty plus your reaction to the difficulty. Pain plus resistance to pain. Stress plus stress about being stressed. When you simply witness, I'm stressed right now. I notice my shoulders are tight. I feel worried about tomorrow. Without adding judgment or forcing change, the experience often softens on its own. Studies in clinical psychology found that acceptance-based approaches reduce anxiety and depression. This doesn't mean giving up on change. It means recognizing that observation itself is healing. Right now, witnessing whatever you're experiencing. Tired, alert, peaceful, restless, without needing it to be different. This is powerful practice. The practice of self-forgiveness for how you've handled stress releases you from past patterns. Maybe you've snapped at people you love. Maybe you've neglected yourself. Maybe you've made choices you regret because you were overwhelmed. Self-forgiveness means acknowledging these happened, taking responsibility, learning what you can, and releasing ongoing self-punishment. Research shows self-forgiveness improves mental health and allows behavior change more effectively than shame. Shame keeps you stuck. Forgiveness creates movement. You were doing the best you could with the resources you had in those moments. Now you're learning other ways. You're growing. Tonight, if you're carrying guilt or shame about stress-related behavior, try gentle release. I was overwhelmed. I did the best I knew. I'm learning. I forgive myself. The recognition that stress is information, not just enemy, changes your relationship with it. Stress tells you something matters. Something needs attention. Instead of only trying to eliminate stress, you can also listen to it. What is this stress protecting? What does it want you to know? Sometimes stress points to real problems requiring action. Sometimes it points to values being violated or needs going unmet. Sometimes it points to old wounds requiring healing. Studies found that people who approach stress with curiosity rather than pure avoidance report greater eventual well-being. This doesn't mean welcoming suffering. It means developing a different relationship with internal signals, treating them as information rather than only threat. Tonight, You've been listening to your body's stress signals by offering rest. You've been honoring the message, "I need relief," by providing it. The deep truth that your struggles don't define you, that you're more than your stress. Your trauma, your difficulties, offers freedom from identification with suffering. Yes, you've experienced stress. Yes, it affects you. But you're also resilience, capacity for joy, kindness, curiosity, strength. Research on identity and well-being shows that people who maintain broader self-concepts beyond their difficulties report better mental health. You're not an anxious person or a stressed person. You're a complex, multifaceted human who, among many other things, sometimes experiences anxiety and stress. This distinction creates space. You're not fighting yourself when you address stress. You're honoring the parts that need help, while recognizing all you are extends far beyond any single aspect. The practice of simply witnessing your own experience without trying to change it can be profoundly healing. Much stress comes from resistance. The original difficulty plus your reaction to the difficulty. When you simply witness, "I'm stressed right now," without adding judgment or forcing change, the experience often softens. Observation itself is healing. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is simply be present with yourself exactly as you are, right now, witnessing whatever you're experiencing. Tired, alert, peaceful, restless, without needing it to be different. This gentle witnessing is powerful practice in itself. The practice of blessing your day, both the smooth and the difficult parts, cultivates acceptance and peace. This doesn't mean pretending everything was wonderful. It means acknowledging all of it, the joys and the sorrows, with gentle inclusiveness. I bless the moments of ease and the moments of difficulty. I bless my efforts and my limitations. Research shows that self-blessing practices reduce evening rumination and improve sleep quality. By making peace with how the day unfolded rather than endlessly replaying what should have been different, you create emotional closure that allows transition into rest. Right now, blessing this day, blessing yourself, blessing this very moment. Even if it's imperfect, the understanding that tomorrow is a new beginning, that today's stress doesn't have to define tomorrow, offers hope. Sleep creates a natural reset point. Research shows that after sleep, emotional regulation improves, stress reactivity decreases, cognitive function returns. You won't wake tomorrow with all problems solved, but you'll wake with restored resources to face them. The person who wakes tomorrow, having rested, will be better equipped than the person who lies here now, depleted. Every night is a small death. Every morning, a small rebirth. You get to begin again. Tomorrow, you'll have another chance. Fresh energy, fresh perspective. The ultimate truth about stress release is profoundly simple. It begins now, in this breath, in this moment of allowing yourself to be cared for. All the science, all the techniques, all the understanding, they matter, but they all point to this. You deserve rest. You need rest. And rest is available right now. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need all problems solved. You can begin releasing stress exactly as you are, exactly where you are. The permission you've been seeking comes from you. Right now, in this moment, you can choose to release your grip on what you're holding, to let your breath deepen, to allow your body to soften. Stress release isn't something you achieve. It's something you allow. And the allowing starts now. And so, our quiet journey through the landscape of stress and release comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from the sharp edges of cortisol and amygdala activation to the soft meadows of breath and self-compassion, discovering along the way that stress is both ancient protection and modern burden, both information and experience that can transform. From the fascinating biology of fight or flight to the simple wisdom of allowing yourself to rest, we've glimpsed how stress and healing are both woven into the fabric of being human, both inevitable, both manageable when met with understanding and compassion. Stress reminds us that we're alive, engaged with life's challenges, caring about outcomes. It reveals what matters to us. But healing reminds us that we're more than our struggles, that resilience grows in quiet moments we give ourselves, that rest itself is profound medicine. The body knows how to release what it no longer needs, knows how to heal given proper conditions. Without this nightly restoration, without these moments when you choose your well-being over endless doing, stress would consume rather than inform. By pausing to notice, to breathe, to allow, you glimpse something extraordinary beneath ordinary stress. Your own capacity for healing, your inherent worth, your fundamental okayness even amid difficulty. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can. As deep as possible, think about connection, of every person listening tonight, all seeking the same thing: release, rest, peace. You are not alone in struggling with stress. You are not the only one who needs help letting go. Millions of minds, scattered across the world, all learning the same lesson: that you can pause, you can rest, you can trust yourself to survive without constant vigilance. Let your entire being dissolve into the collective exhale of everyone who's ever been too tired to hold on anymore, into the soft darkness where all boundaries fade. Prepare for deep sleep. No edges left between you and rest. Only peace. If this thoughtful exploration of stress and sleep helped you release even slightly, brought you some measure of peace or understanding, a gentle subscribe or like creates a pathway for more exhausted souls to discover this quiet sanctuary. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One peaceful night, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, farther than most journeys take you. You can allow these thoughts of stress and release to fade now, like morning mist dissolving in warm light, leaving only the peaceful calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if gravity itself is gently pulling you toward earth, toward rest, toward the safety of letting go completely. If sleep comes, let it carry you like a slow river moving toward the sea, smoothly, inevitably, into a realm where time and weight no longer matter, where stress cannot follow, where only restoration lives. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, stress will still exist. Challenges will still await. But tonight belongs to healing. Rest well, dear friend. And remember, stress is temporary. but your capacity to recover, to rest, to begin again tomorrow, that is constant. Fall asleep to gentle facts, where science meets sleep. Dream deeper with bedtime psychology. Relax, listen, and drift into sleep. Good night.